Hello, Earthlings. How are you today? Welcome to the show. This is First Contact Radio. FirstContactRadio.com. We're here Monday through Friday. All right. Let's look at our cosmic weather for today, see where we're started. Our solar wind is down to 232.2 kilometers per second. Our planetary K index down to 0, not expected to be any higher than that within the next 24 hours. And our chance for an M-class flare is up there. We're into the 70% chance that we're going to have one of those, and a 10% chance that there is going to be an X-class flare that's going to occur sometime within the next 24 hours. The geomagnetic storm possibility in the mid-latitudes is about 40%, and in the upper latitudes it gets just a slight bit higher, but not too much. I have the story right here. It says on December 27th, the second night in a row, Venus and the crescent moon are lining up in the western sky for a beautiful sunset conjunction. Go outside when the sun goes down and enjoy the show. Also, just to remind you, CMEs target Earth and Mars. The odds of a geomagnetic storm on the 28th are improving with the launch of 2 CMEs headed towards Earth in less than 24 hours. NASA's Stereo B spacecraft photographed this one on December 26th. According to the forecast track prepared by analysts at Goddard Space Weather Lab, the cloud should squarely hit Earth's magnetic field on the 28th at around 2022 Universal Time, plus or minus 7 hours. Another CME could deliver a glancing blow a few hours earlier on the same date. The double impact is expected to spark mid to moderate geomagnetic storms at high latitudes. And it goes on to say that Mars is also in line of the fire. The first of the 2 CMEs are squarely directed toward the red planet. Estimated time of arrival, December 30th at 1800 Universal Time. Using onboard radiation sensors, NASA's Curiosity rover might also be able to sense the CME when it passes over the spacecraft en route to Mars. And then this is the image of what people are seeing in the sky. This is the night after Christmas. The heavens delivered a belated present. A conjunction of Venus and the crescent moon. Pretty cool. Alright. Well, there you have it. That's what's there. Now, astrologically, let's take a look at this to see what kind of energy is around us. We got the sun is in Capricorn. Remember, the sun is that which rules or energetically deals with our conscious mind. So the conscious mind, the things we think about, is what the conscious. You have your conscious mind and your unconscious mind. So in regards to the things that we consciously think about, we're during the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn is the mountain goat that keeps climbing, so you've got the idea of endurance that's built in there. You have the Capricorn, the goat, which is out there. You see all the fur and everything to keep warm, so there's the idea of warmth because there's some sort of coldness that is inherent. There's the mountain and the physical things there, so the Capricorn is dealing with a physical situation, just like during the time of Capricorn is a physical time. We experience the elements in many different places. The weather changes, which is representative of the coat that the Capricorn, the mountain goat, is putting on, showing that there is a season and elemental issue that's being dealt with. So there's a lot of different things that can be related, and you look in there. And then you look at the moon sign. The moon deals with our subconscious, and the subconscious aspect right now is in Aquarius. And Aquarius is about balance. Aquarius, you've heard the phrase going into the age of Aquarius, as we are doing as a whole on the planet. And what this is a time when we become more balanced in the way that we're seeing things and thinking things. It's as if in the past we haven't been completely balanced. We've been a bit out of touch with our balance, being a bit more too conscious than unconscious, or vice versa. And the Aquarius reminds us it's a time to be balanced. It's a time to be balanced, to balance out the energies of the conscious and the subconscious. Alright, our moon phase, as you can see here, is we are just a little bit past the new moon, which began yesterday. We're 10% and we're moving back up. This is called the waxing moon. The waxing moon goes from a new moon. A new moon is when it just begins, all the way up to the full moon. That's the waxing phase. It takes about 2 weeks to do that. So we are just 10% full, and we're making our way up. All right, and the last thing to look at here for our cosmic weather is our dream spell. And the dream spell for today, it's a yellow day, a yellow rhythmic star guided by the seed. Now, I said rhythmic, self-existing, yellow self-existing star guided by the seed. Yellow is the color of ripening. Remember, there's 4 colors with the system: red, white, blue, and yellow. Yellow is the ripening color. This is the 4th tone. The 4th tone is a tone that deals with self-existing energy. And the symbol for today, the star, is all about beauty and elegance. Think about when you look up in the sky, you think how beautiful they are. Kind of that idea. The ancestors would look up in the sky, they would see these images, they would see these ideas, they would use them in the symbology of everyday life. That way it makes it easy to describe the things. The guide for today is the seed, which is all about flowering. So today is about looking at the beauty of things, and from that beauty of the way things are being looked at, planting a new seed, allowing the new idea to spring forth. The phrase for today is, I define in order to beautify, measuring art. I seal the store of elegance with the self-existing tone of form. I am guided by the power of flowering. And again, today is another one of those galactic activation portal days. And on the Gregorian calendar, it is Tuesday, December 27th, 2011. All right. Now, moving right along, what we're going to do, we're not going to go to a video like we usually do. I'm going to read something here, and we're going to kind of go from here. Okay, one of the things that's being attacked here in the United States of America is our very freedoms. And these freedoms that are being attacked are not only affecting American citizens, but affecting people all around the world. Now, many of your friends may not realize the attacks that are underway. You've been watching this show, so you're aware of what's going on. I'm guessing that you've probably gone out and you've looked some other places as well. So you understand that there's some problems in the world and some challenges that need to be fixed, because if they don't get fixed, well, the world's going to become a bigger problem than it already is. And actually, is it the world that's the problem, or is it the people that are on the planet that are the problem? I think it's more that way. The world is doing what the world does. It's the beings that are running around here that are causing all the problems. So if indeed Earthlings do have concern that extraterrestrials are going to come down to wipe out the Earthlings, well, you got to understand why. It's because the Earthlings are the ones who look like they're the problems. And it's not all the Earthlings. It's just there's these small groups of them that are in the governments that are causing the problems. So if you were looking down upon this planet from outside, let's say you came down here from another society out there in the universe, and you came to this planet and you were watching, what would you think if you looked down and you just saw all the wars that were being created? Would you think that everybody was a warlike being on that planet? Or would you realize that there are just some that are causing the problems and are creating more of the wars? It's a tough thing to decide, and because of these decisions that I'm presenting to you, these are the same type of decisions and ideas that are being presented to these extraterrestrial beings that are on the ships that are up there looking down at humanity, deciding if humanity is good or if humanity is really bad. You can send out your messages of goodness just by sending out a message of goodness of where you stand, and energetically that will go a long, long way. Now, of these problems, one of the things that's really being eroded here in the United States is the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. So today we're going to go over the Constitution and the Bill of Rights at this opening segment here to refresh your memory on some things. I've been reading the preamble, but now we're going to go through the whole deal. So let's start here with the Bill of Rights. Let's look at the preamble. Preamble to the Bill of Rights. Congress of the United States began and is held in New York City on Wednesday, the 4th of March, 1789. The conventions of the number of states having at the time of their adoption of the Constitution expressed a desire in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of its powers that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added, and as extending the ground of public confidence that the government will ensure the beneficial ends of its institution. Resolved by the Senate and the House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled, two-thirds of both houses concurring that the following articles be proposed to the legislatures of the several states as the amendments of the Constitution of the United States, any and all of which articles are ratified by three-fourths of the legislators to be valid to all intents and purposes a part of the said Constitution. Alright, so let's go down here and let's take a look at this. Let me backtrack over here first. Let's remind ourselves this is the preamble. We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Now let's look at the Bill of Rights right here. 1. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. This one is very important, the First Amendment. This is the one that is being trampled on. You see the protesters out there? That is their right. They have the right to petition the government for a redress of grievances. They have the right to petition. They have the right to assemble, to do the things they are doing. It is the police and it is the state governments that are out of line with the people. They think that they have more power than the people, yet you see more people standing out in the street against what they are saying because the people know it's wrong. So again, you have a minority which is putting out bad laws, bad words, bad information, and they are using that to keep control of the others and then making the others look bad for following the rules that are in place. Because those in power don't like the rules that were made by the Founding Fathers. They want to make their own rules. Let's move on. Amendment 2. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Yet, you keep hearing these amendments. The Second Amendment is being attacked by the President and the administration. They want to take your guns away from you. During Hurricane Katrina, the National Guard went in and they took guns away from American citizens. They disarmed them. That is against the Constitution. You see, if they disarm you, it's because they somehow want to try to imprison you. It's not about they want to disarm you so that nobody has any guns. They don't want anybody to have any guns except for them. Yet, the very administration that is doing these kind of things is out there giving guns to the bad guys. And I'm talking about Fast and Furious. They're giving guns to the bad guys who are going to go and cause problems and kill American citizens and kill other people as well. Doesn't matter if they're Americans or not, they're killing with them. And yet, this government wants to take guns away from the American people. It's wrong, folks. It's wrong. It's wrong. Amendment 3. No soldier in the time of peace shall be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by the law. In other words, you can't have a military personnel show up at your house and saying that they're going to be staying there, that they have been ordered to stay there, and that's the way it is, because according to the Constitution of the United States, there is no war taking place, and this can't happen. Now, with the National Defense Authorization Act, this is where it's getting tricky, because they've declared the United States a battlefield. Therefore, if this is a battlefield and the rules of war are in place, can they say that because the rules of war are in place and this is a battlefield, that this is a time of war and they can then have soldiers move into your home without your permission? Tricky thing, my friends, a tricky thing indeed. Amendment 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, homes, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures should not be violated, and no warrant shall issue upon the probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Now, we've known about this search and seizure. We see it in the television shows all the time. However, this gets violated quite a bit. Gets violated quite a bit. People are illegally searched all of the time, and it's happening more and more. It's like when you go to the airport and you have the TSA agents groping you and your children as you walk through. Is this really necessary? Is this really proper that they go ahead and do this and search in that manner? You know, it seems like there's a bit of ridiculousness going on, that we know how to search, we know how to check each other, but we have these fear systems in place and we think we have to use certain tools to get the job done. Not the case, not necessarily the case, but the powers that be would have you believe that is true. Amendment 5, no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment of indictment of grand jury, except in some cases in the land or naval forces or in the militia, where in actual service in a time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject to the same offense, be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall they be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, or to be deprived life, liberty, or the pursuit of property, or property without due process of law. Nor shall property be taken for public without just compensation. Alright, well, this is the one that's definitely being trampled on by the National Defense Authorization Act, because you will be, according to this law, deprived of life, liberty, and property. You will not be allowed due process with the new bill that's in place, and the Fifth Amendment will not apply to you, because it doesn't matter that you plead the Fifth. It doesn't matter, because they're not even asking what you have to say in that regard. The National Defense Authorization Act takes that away, takes your rights away. So again, the Constitution is being trampled on. Amendment number 6, in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the rights to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district where the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of by the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witness in his favor, and to have the assistance for counsel of his defense. Again, National Defense Authorization Act, you do not have a right to a trial. You can be indefinitely detained, put away, without any of these rights whatsoever. Amendment number 7, in the suits at common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury to be preserved, and no fact tried by jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States other than the rules of the common law. Again, National Defense Authorization Act, you do not have a right to a trial. You do not have the right to a jury. They just send you away. They don't have to give you a reason why. The bill just says they can do it, because that is what these wonderful, wonderful American patriots called congressmen and senators had in mind, obviously, when they voted yes on this bill. So it's very dark and ugly, my friends. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. Remember the waterboarding that was done? Remember the torture that the Bush administration was accused of? The United States now, being under a battlefield and under the rules of battle, they could subject any Americans to the same form of torture. So perhaps some of those individuals out there who thought that waterboarding and the other things they said were torture really aren't torture. Hopefully you're not going to end up one day at the wrong side of the NDAA and in some sort of a prison somewhere, detained against your will without knowing why. And if that's the case, hopefully you won't be tortured in these manners, because if that's the case, you may quickly change your tune on what you think is torture and not. They're trampling on your rights, my friends. Amendment number 9. The enumeration of the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. And 10. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by the state, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. And again, this is a very important one, getting trampled on all the time. The governments do not want to have people to have power. They don't want the states to have the power. That's why you hear that the government keeps infringing everywhere they go. That's why you have all across this country police stations, police forces are being infiltrated by the feds so that they have their hands everywhere. So if a situation occurs and the states try to take control, there will be federal agents in all of these state offices that will not be able to completely become a state-run office because the feds will be in contact with the federal government and they will try to come in and take the control on their own. That's what's going on, my friends. It's kind of dangerous. It's not very good, but that's our Bill of Rights and the Constitution. We must stand up. We must protect them because if we don't, nobody else will. Because as you can see what's going on up in Capitol Hill, there's very, very few congressmen and senators who are actually standing up for the American people. Most of them are against the American people. They just sit there, they get their paychecks, and they just do nothing but find more ways to imprison you and impose laws upon you that is going to put more money into their pockets and less freedom into your lives. Anyway, that's the opening. Let me jump over UFO.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, UFO News. We have 5 stories for today. Our first story comes to us from latest-UFO sightings.net. This is UFO activity over SLC, Utah. Salt Lake City, SLC. Footage above. Witness report, triangular UFO with small flashing companion. My wife and I were driving home from my sister's house when I saw a light in the sky. I pointed it out to her, and she pulled into the neighborhood where we were driving past and we stopped the car. We both got out of the car and observed 3 orange objects that at first looked like an orb, but as they flew closer to us, they were shaped like a small triangle, no larger than 5 feet in diameter. We were coming from the north towards us in a southern direction, and were at different altitudes, from 100 to 500 feet off the ground. We took a few pictures, then thought they might be Chinese lanterns. As we turned to get back in the car, we saw 2 very bright lights in a southeast direction. They were further off more than a mile. We drove to a nearby park to get a better look at them. When we got out of the car, took a few pictures of them. They were both stationary for more than 2 minutes. Then one began to move around, then away from the stationary one towards the north. They were oval. They were very bright white light. We wondered if we could see them from our neighborhood, which was at a higher altitude, and we looked at the valley. So we drove home and found that we could see them very well from there as well, about 5 miles further away. We went to our neighborhood home and told them about it. They wanted to see them, so both of the families got in their cars and drove up the neighboring golf course to see them. They were still there. In all, we saw 4 bright white lights moving around a stationary object that was on the top of the mountain on the other side of the valley. We observed them for 15 minutes, taking a 2-minute video as well. Let's look at this video right here. It's out of Salt Lake City, Utah, December 24th. Alright. Let's see. I'm not really seeing too much here. Alright, it's kind of hard to see these here, but I've got the link up on our page. You can check it out, see what you think. Our next story comes to us as UFO mothership ejecting orbs over Mexico on the 25th. Posted by apparently JMHZ71. Must be the user who posted them. And here, let's just take a look at this. Okay, here we got the object in question. It says this is going to be ejecting orbs out of it. So let me just move along here. It's a longer video. Alright, you can see it's making an interesting looking shape right there. And you can see in the video he's pointing out where other orbs apparently are projected. Alright, there's a second one right there, it looks like. Very interesting indeed. All right. Got a couple right there. So they're multiplying, they're growing. So I'm going to leave that for you to see the rest. This is from a fleet over Moscow on the 25th, Christmas. Alright. Zooming in here. Alright, looks like we got something out here. We just got a couple lights out there. It's hard to see. Alright. Alright, so that's out in Russia. This is over France on the 26th, yesterday. We have a series of images here. And now we've got the film right here. Let's check it out. Okay. Alright, you can see it in the distance here. It's just to the left of the chimney stack. Okay. Alright, there you go. Good shot of it left of the chimney stack there. What is that? I don't know, but it looks like it's unidentified. And our last one comes to us from over Hawaii. Glowing UFO over clouds at Hawaii. Alright, this is give you the object in question. This is a little bit more of a proximity of what it looked like. I was watching the Canada, France, Hawaii telescope live cam, CFHT, when I noticed a glowing object right at the top of the clouds. The object was long, and maybe the side view of a dark or cigar-shaped craft. The cam renews its photos every 60 seconds, and the next photo did not have the craft. Alright, so again, this is what was seen there. There's not a video for this, just the image itself. This is above the clouds there, and in proximity, could you see where it was? It's coming from a webcam. So there you have it. It's our UFO news for today. We jump away to our song, Wake Up. When I get back, more news and information. Stay tuned.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw a UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Patriots arise. It's time to demand the truth.
Alright, I'm back. So, our next story up in line comes to us from Intel Hub. Last hope. Representative Landry introduces amendments to NDAA to protect Americans from indefinite detention without due process. This comes from by Madison Rupert. I've been extensively covering the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2012, commonly referred to as the NDAA, and the incredible dangers it presents, including the authorization for covert offensive cyber warfare, since I was first made aware of this existence. Now, if you're not familiar with this legislation, please take the critical moments to educate yourself on the issue by reading the article about the predecessor bill S-1253, along with the first, second, and third articles about the latter version, along with the coverage of the civilian internee designation and KBR's move to create teams to make the so-called FEMA camps operational within 72 hours. This is a large picture that requires stepping back and taking in as much information as possible in order to truly understand what is going on and not to be deceived by the traitors in Washington and their cronies in the establishment media outlets. I also recommend you take a moment to get yourself psychologically prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. I've been making a concerted effort to debunk this disinformation peddled by far too many people who claim that despite the clear language in the bill to the contrary, American citizens cannot be indefinitely detained without charge or trial under the legislation. Yet, the assault on our most essential civil liberties has been relentless, thanks greatly in part to the establishment media covering the NDA as little as possible, and a concerted effort by some of our so-called representatives like Congressman Tim Griffin to deceive the American people. Thankfully, Jeff Landry, a freshman Republican congressman from Louisiana, introduced H.R. 3676, which intends to amend the detainee provisions of the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2012 to specifically state that United States citizens may not be detained against their will without all the rights of due process afforded to citizens in a court ordained or established under the Article 2 of the Constitution of the United States. I think this is of dire importance for all of us, as the lack of clear language prohibiting the detainee provisions from being applied to American citizens and other lawful residents currently in the NDAA is nothing short of disturbing. Recently, The Hill reported that Landry received a commitment from House Armed Services Committee Chairman Buck McKeon to revisit the NDAA to ensure that the language related to detainee does not give U.S. government new rights to hold U.S. citizens without due process. It is important to note that despite the hollow claims repeatedly parroted by some of the traitors in Washington, the current language in the NDAA does not prohibit the detention of American citizens without charge or trial. Alright, there's much more to this article. Again, it's important to read because you're not going to find this or hear about this in the mainstream media. So if you're expecting that Bill O'Reilly is suddenly going to turn into a good guy, you're wrong. Bill O'Reilly's a pinhead. That's all he is. He lies to people. Same with the other mainstream media representatives. They are either CIA assets or they just have their head so far buried up somebody's keister that they don't even know the difference between truth and lies. So all they keep spouting are lies. And then they go on and they tell you how they're fair and balanced and how they're the no-spin zones and all this other nonsense, blah, 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 blah. Just talking nonsense from people that are just nonsensical pinheads. That's all that's really going on there. But you got to know what's going on with this bill, because this affects you and it affects your family. So please pay more attention. Make sure others know. Ask them. I stop security guards when I see them in the streets walking along. We have out here these security ambassadors out in Los Angeles. They ride around on their bicycles. So I'll stop them. And I'll ask them questions. Whenever I stop them, they'll get on their walkie-talkies and make sure other ones know, hey, somebody's asking me a question. Quick, gather around. And pretty soon there's a few others that'll be there. gathered around to make sure that there's no harm befalling their comrade because somebody's decided to ask them a question. I've asked police officers. Some of them know, some don't. Security guard that I talked to the other day, he didn't know. So a lot of folks don't know, and they're going to be in a lot of trouble. And even when I try to explain it, people aren't getting it. It's like there's this glaze over people's eyes and stuff's just going right over their head. So we need to wake each other up. And if the security personnel of this country aren't going to pay attention, talk to the people who you hope will. Friends, family members. If you know anyone in the military, talk to them. Ask them if they know about this bill. And ask them if they would actually turn their guns on the American citizens. Really. Ask them this. Because they are going to be asked this themselves. You don't want your sons or your daughters or your brothers or sisters turning a gun on you because someone in the government says that they have to do that. Any more than you don't want somebody else turning their guns on you or they're overturning their guns on somebody else. None of this should happen in this country. Yet it is all moving that direction because we have a corrupt administration and we have a corrupt system in place that needs to be replaced with something non-corrupt. Now, in Montana, they're doing something about what went on. Montanans, launch a recall of senators who approved the NDAA military detention. Merry Christmas, U.S. Senate. Says, the issue of federal... Let me open this up a bit here. The issue of federal office official recall has never reached the federal courts. Moving quickly on Christmas Day after the U.S. Senate voted 86-14 to pass the National Defense Authorization Act of 2011, the NDAA, which allows for the indefinite military detention of American citizens without charge or trial, Montanans have announced the launch of a recall campaign against Senators Max Baucus and Jonathan Tester, who voted on the bill. Montana is one of 9 states with provisions that says that the right of the recall extends for recalling members of its federal congressional delegation pursuant to Montana Code 12-16-603 on the grounds of physical or mental lack of fitness, incompetence, violation of the oath of office, official misconduct, and a conviction of certain felony offenses. Section 2 of Montana Code 2-16-603 reads, a public officer holding an elective office may be recalled by the qualified electors entitled to vote for the elective officer's successor. The website ballotpedia.org cites 8 other states which allow for the recall of elected federal officials: Arizona, Colorado, Louisiana, Michigan, Nevada, North Dakota, Oregon, Wisconsin. New Jersey's federal recall law was struck down when a New Jersey state judge ruled that the federal Constitution does not allow states the power to recall U.S. senators, despite the fact that the Constitution explicitly allows, by not disallowing, prohibited in the 10th Amendment, the state's power to recall the U.S. senators and congressmen. Okay, you can have the link. It's available, so you can go and read this more on your own. But you can see in Montana, they're not going to take this. Their senators that they voted on to go out there to represent the people didn't represent the people. None of your senators from your states that went out there represented you. Unless, of course, I may be wrong. If your intention is to be detained indefinitely, if your intention was for the United States to be declared a battlefield, and that we, as American citizens here, are all subjected to the rules of war, if that is your intention, then they went and they properly represented you in putting that forward. But if it was not your intention that the things that I just mentioned should be in place, then your senators, the elected officials that you sent to Washington, did not represent you, and they need to be fired. They need to be fired indefinitely because they do not speak for you or the people that they are supposed to represent. Now here's a story. Pentagon finds no fault in ties to TV analysts. Pentagon, they're just as much as part of the problem. I know that they seem to be the ones that are out there standing for the country, but they're not. They're administrators in Washington that, again, are out there doing corrupt things. A Pentagon public relations program that sought to transform high-profile military analysts into surrogates and message force multipliers for the Bush administration complied with Defense Department regulations and directives. The Pentagon's Inspector General has concluded after a 2-year investigation. The inquiry was prompted by articles published in New York Times in 2008 that described how the Pentagon, in years after September 11th attacks, cultivated close ties with retired officers who worked as military analysts for television and radio networks. The articles also showed how military analysts affiliated with defense contractors sometimes used their special access to seek advantage in competition for contracts. In response to the articles, the Pentagon suspended the program, and members of Congress asked the Defense Department's Inspector General to investigate. In January 2009, the Inspector General's office issued a report that said it had found no wrongdoing in the program. But soon after, the Inspector General's office retracted the entire report, saying it was so riddled with inaccuracies and flaws that none of its conclusions could be relied upon. In late 2009, the Inspector General's office began a new inquiry. The results of the new inquiry, first reported by the Washington Times, confirmed that the Pentagon under Donald Rumsfeld made a concerted effort starting in 2002 to reach out to a network military analysts to build and sustain public support for the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The inquiry found that from 2002 to 2008, Mr. Rumsfeld's Pentagon organized 147 events for 74 military analysts. These included 22 meetings at the Pentagon, 114 conference calls with generals and senior Pentagon officials, and 11 Pentagon-sponsored trips to Iraq and Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. 20 of these events, according to a 35-page report of the inquiry's finding, involved Mr. Rumsfeld or the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, or both. Well, there's more to the article. You can go on and read, and it's just going to show you how corrupt even the Pentagon is. Now, is it all of the Pentagon? No, it's not all of the Pentagon. Just like it's not all of the administration that's causing the problems. But there are bad apples in there. One extremely rotten bad apple is Donald Rumsfeld. He's such a rotten apple, he's got worms crawling all the different holes out of him as the apple. Just like Cheney. Same thing. 2 rotten apples. When you got George Bush in the mix, you got 3 rotten apples that were in our White House for some time. Now we've got a really rotten apple in there in Obama. We need to get all these rotten apples and we need to throw them out because they're spoiling the rest of the batch. It's that simple. It's not like brain surgery. Okay? It's very simple. You get a bag of fruits, vegetables. If you got some rotten ones in there, they're spoiling the batch. You take them out, you wash the rest off, everything's going to be okay. That's what we need to do. We need to rid ourselves of all of those who are causing these lies and these problems. Now, here's a situation you probably didn't think you'd hear about. This comes to us from Mike Adams of Natural News via InfoWars. American farmlands to be carpet bombed with Vietnam-era Agent Orange chemical. A key chemical, one of the most horrifying elements of Vietnam War, Agent Orange, may soon be unleashed on Americans' farmlands. Considered by the world's nations to be a weapon of mass destruction, Agent Orange was dropped on millions of gallons on civilian populations during the Vietnam War in order to destroy foliage and poison North Vietnamese soldiers. The former president of the Vietnamese Red Cross, Professor Nihan, described it as a massive violation of human rights of the civilian population and a weapon of mass destruction. Again, the United States of America was the only country in the world to blow up a nuclear bomb, a weapon of mass destruction. In Vietnam, they put out Agent Orange, being described in here as a weapon of mass destruction. Yet the Americans, the administrators, will go and point their fingers at other countries saying they have weapons of mass destruction. But guess what? None of them are using them against their people. None of them are using them against the world. But Americans have not only used these things against the world, but have used them also against their people. It's unfortunate there are so many soldiers, veterans of the Vietnam War, that have Agent Orange poisoning because of the sickness of the government who thought that this would be a great idea. So they killed, and they maimed, and they injured, all because of money. It's really sickening, friends. It's really sickening what they're doing, and now they want to do this in America. You need to pay more attention. if you're involved, if your country or if your state is one of those that this is going to happen, you better pay attention because this would not be a good thing. Now, our next story is also coming to us out of InfoWars via Press TV. U.S. media pretends Operation Wall Street no longer exists. Now, you haven't really heard about them a lot in the mainstream, so you probably think that they're gone. Well, the U.S. eviction of Occupy encampments is in coordination with the country's corporate media, which just treat the Occupy movement as if it no longer exists, an activist tells Press TV. But those who are participants in the Occupy movement are learning a lot from the experience. They're learning a lot about the role of the police and the role of the corporate media and what their own potential is, to develop alternative means and to take direct action. That is what their greatest potential is, said Sarah Flounders, a New York-based Occupy Wall Street activist. Her comments come as the Occupy Wall Street protesters gathered in New York's Zuccotti Park, the epicenter of the OWS movement, to mark the 100th day of protests against corporatism and social inequality in the United States during the Christmas Day celebrations. When asked about how the movement has been able to sustain for so long, Flounders attributed the protest's endurance to the economic crisis that is expanding for so many millions of people, saying, "What's fueled this is the economic pain, growing crisis of the capitalistic system, no jobs, no future." She went on to say the occupiers think one of the most important upcoming activities they are planning will be the Martin Luther King birthday on January 16th, a call for Occupy for jobs, demanding a national jobs campaign that has been very much an energetic force in New York. So, you may not think it's happening, but it is happening. It is still going on. Now, the mainstream media, who chooses to lie to you about all sorts of things, well, this is what they think of you. This is a card. It's a news channel, the holiday card. And what you can see right here, this comes to us from Sheila Aliens. But this is the card that they have put out. Let's take a look at this. Let's zip in. There you go. Alright. What do you think of this card here? Got ABC. We got a Fox. We got CBS. NBC. Got them all here. And look at what they got here. Look who's driving these. Sheep. Sheep. This is one of the holiday cards that Fox News Channel sent out this year. So this is what they think. They think that people are the sheep. They think the people are the sheep, and they're driving the sheep. Look at them. This is what they think. It's blatant, my friends. They're not hiding the way they feel about people. They're not hiding this. They're in plain sight right there. They think that you are a sheeple. They don't care if you know. If they did, they wouldn't put this out there. Very blatant, very disrespectful. Very, very disrespectful. Alright, now, turn our attention momentarily here to this. I'm not going to go over all this in great detail because we've done this in the past. Just want to remind you, we're coming upon an important time, 2012. There's a lot of anxiety that is going to be happening with this year. Why do I say that? Is it some sort of cataclysm is about to occur? I don't know about that. I do know this. I do know that there's been a lot of information about 2012 for years. For many, many years. A lot of people waiting for this time. So here we are, less than a week away from 2012. So there will be a lot of anxiety about what's going to happen. For many people, they're going to think that the world has less than a year before it ends. Imagine what someone might do when they think they only have 1 year of life left. Some might go out there and really enjoy life. They might go on vacation, they may travel, they may spend more time with their family. Some may go out there and may do all kinds of craziness because it's the end. They may think that they have a free card to do whatever they want because in a matter of 360 some odd days, everyone's going to be gone. And there are those who are preparing for life to continue on past 2012. All sorts of things are going on. But one thing that can be for certain about this year, it's going to be an interesting year on the things that we experience. All these laws have been put in place. A lot of things have been talked about, and one of them has been Bluebeam. Project Operation Bluebeam. And Operation Bluebeam, well, this is one article here. It says chemical-like substance could be used in Bluebeam type operation. The fact stands there are patents and military technologies available to project 3D holograms including light and sound into a background using crystals composed of barium and strontium, a very components that make up chemtrails or aerosol sprays typically used in stratospheric geoengineering applications. Yes, geoengineering chemtrails are a reality. In fact, there's a presidential budget kept basically secret from the civilian population of the United States, and yes, plans are staged for an ET UFO invasion on the masses that could be a new trick up the sinister government sleeve. Alright? So, they're spraying these things, these substances, for what purpose? For this purpose right here. This article's up there. It's written by Serge Monast. Serge Monast is a journalist who put this together, and Project Bluebeam involves 4 different steps. The 4 steps of Project Bluebeam are basically to fool you. Step number 1 is using the HARP machine is to create a series of Earth events where the ground cracks open or something occurs and they say, oh no, the ground cracked open and look, we just made these new discoveries and all these things, this information you thought about ancient history, it's wrong because we just found this. So they want to use, on one hand, a way to confuse the people of the world about what really their history was. What was the history of this planet? They want to change it using such technologies. Secondly, they want to be able to have the HARP machine then be able to, with its frequencies, get into your head. When it gets into your head, you'll think that you're hearing voices. You may think that you're going crazy, or you may think that you're hearing voices from other entities which are trying to get you to cause harm to yourself or to others. The next step of that is to simulate some sort of a religious experience that the whole planet will have. For example, if you're in your country, you may see Buddha. If you're in the United States, you may see Jesus. If you're in other countries, you may say Krishna. Whatever your spiritual entity is of your country, whichever the teacher is that you look at, the master, the prophet, that would be projected there. It's like earlier this year in Africa. They all saw the symbol of Mary in the sky, an image of Mary. Well, it's quite possible that could be real, or it could be an effect of Project Bluebeam, a holographic projection system in the sky meant to fool people. Now the last part of this Bluebeam, and this is the part we've heard about many, many times, and is the final card that they want to play, and that's the alien invasion. They've been building up for a long time the stories in the media, the movies that come out, that the aliens are going to invade. And so now that you've got you on your seat of your pants, seat of your chairs, waiting for the invasion to occur, all you need is an invasion. Well, with the holographic equipment in place, that is what they have in mind. To simulate an invasion so that you will turn to the government and say, oh, government, please save us from the aliens. Well, don't buy everything that they tell you, my friends. They're going to try these tricks. But believe me, there are beings down here on this planet right now from other worlds, beings that you talk to probably every single day as you move through life, and you would never realize they're from somewhere else. They're not here to hurt you. They're not here to hurt anybody. They're here to coexist on this planet. They're here to assist this planet with changes that we're going through over the course of this next year and beyond. So, don't get caught up into believing their lies. Is there a negative extraterrestrial entity that we need to be concerned about? Yes. It's those that have already infiltrated the government and the administrations around the world. There are those that are working and directly affecting the banking institutions and the religious institutions around the world. Yes, they are already here and they have already infiltrated, and they're trying to convince you that you need to shoot at any other extraterrestrials up there because they're the bad ones. Meanwhile, taking the attention off of those down here that are causing the problems. Again, even though there are those that say that the information is not completely 100% accurate, I still look at the translation that talks about Barack Obama being the Antichrist, and this is out of a translation of what Jesus said, that he beheld Satan as lightning from the heights, and the translation being that he beheld Satan as Barack Obama. I don't think it's any strange coincidence. We're told to listen to what Jesus says. Here's a translation that probably has a 50-50 chance of being the right translation by somebody we're supposed to listen to. And in that warning, I think is something important, because the man in office, the very man that has the name that is transcribed from Jesus saying, happens to be the man who's in office right now when all of this stuff is going on. We know he's a liar because he hasn't really been honest about many things up to this point. So he fits within the idea of what an Antichrist is. Is he the be-all, end-all Antichrist? I don't know. But is he one of them? I certainly believe that is the case. And I believe we'd have had a number of them down here upon this planet. And I think it's very, very important that we pay attention, because these Antichrists that are in the government are trying to get you to believe that what they are doing is Christ-like and Christian, and they're the good guys. Well, they're not the good guys. What they're doing is not Christ-like, and what they're doing is not a Christian way to be living at all. So pay attention, friends. They're trying to fool you. And if you stay on top of what's going on, it's going to keep you from getting fooled. That's all I can say about that. If you pay attention, you won't get fooled. Or hopefully you'll have a little bit of insight, so if you do, you won't be fooled for too long. Last but not least, let's do our prayer and a meditation for today. Close things out, and then get upon our business at hand. So let's imagine we're walking down a path. We're walking down that path of life, the infamous path we've been walking along all year long. And let's see the end of that path. And that end of this path this time takes us to the end of our journey of a long year of walking. And it's coming up really soon. We just simply need to endure a few more days, and then we can rest, regroup, and then begin the process all over again. Think about the moon, which has just become a new moon. And think about inside of yourself how the opportunity for you to allow new ideas and thoughts to help you evolve along. And with this new growth of light within you, as we move from the shortest day back towards the longest day, see the light inside you growing brighter, little by little. Imagine a light inside of you shining brighter until that light fills the entire being that you are. Imagine all your chakras are activated, starting with the chakra at the bottom of your spine. Imagine the color red. Then bring the energy up to the chakra above it. The color is orange. Second chakra right at the belly button. Raise the energy up to the chakra above it. Imagine the color yellow. From there, raise the energy up to the chakra above it. Right at the heart, imagine the color green. And from the green heart chakra, raise the energy up to the throat. Imagine the color blue. From the blue throat chakra, raise the energy up higher to the third eye. Imagine the color violet. And finally, to the top of your head, indigo, as the light continues on. You're connected above and below. All the light shining bright in your body. See it overflowing, forming that spiritual armor of protection. And from your heart chakra, imagine sending out love all around the world. Imagine green energy coming out from your heart all around as a wave of love in all directions. And imagine feeling the energy of love coming to you from all around the planet. Let's think a good thought for everybody in the world. Let's think thoughts of endurance for everyone around the world to make it through this last several days of 2011. And with that, let's bring our energy and attention back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2 coming back to the present moment, filled with faith, and 1 coming back to the present moment. Happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. And there you have it, my friends. Another show, another prayer, meditation, all that good stuff. Hope you've enjoyed. Thanks for being here. We've almost made it. Remember, we're going to do the goal setting workshop on Friday. So start thinking about the things that you want to work towards and work on over the course of 2012. And then in the second half of the hour, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put those goals down on paper and see what we can do about making them a reality for the upcoming year. There you have it. That's the show. I'll be back tomorrow with more news and information. Till then, have a great day. Peace. I'm out of here.